Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We're going back, of course, to the JRC here in a moment, but first, the disclaimers and the trigger warnings. If you're unfamiliar with the Stop the Shots campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, pertinent links are going to be right there in the description box. We have Autistic Koya's massive archive, where we get the bulk of the material on the JRC from. We have the article Neuroclass wrote, the one where they interviewed over 800 ABA professionals in regards to their JRC's so-called behavior modification program. The exact same one that got so under JRC's skin, they threatened Neuroclastic with a defamation lawsuit, no less. They refused folks to remove it from their website. Please read the article. Share on all your social media. If you look down towards the bottom, you're going to see a link to Neuroclastic's GoFundMe. Us advocates, we don't have access to unlimited funds. If you could give, I know they would appreciate it. If not, share it. We do have that there just in case the JRC ever does decide to see through with their threat. To the trigger warnings, when we discuss places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center or Agape Boarding School for Boys, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips or surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please use your headphones. Also, this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We do use profanity and speak on dark subjects. If your child's 16 and younger and they are watching this, parental supervision is advised. All right, where we left off. And wouldn't you know it, an appeal to authority. I was trying not to go off. And I was doing good, but god damn it, here they go again. SAS's father is a physician. He testified during the Massachusetts trial about his daughter's severe and dangerous behaviors, attempted treatments for her SIB and AB before ESD treatment, and her successful treatment with ESDs. Yes, we actually read that on this channel. Here's a few things. That argument, that little appeal to authority there, does not work on people like me. I got two reasons for that. A, I've worked in this field within some capacity for over 20 years. Whether through voluntarily, mainly, which is what I'm doing right now, working with ARC, NOVA, People First, ASAN when I can, and on a consulting basis for places like Burrell and Rivendell. In an official capacity, where I worked as the advocacy specialist for the Southwest region of the Missouri Department of Mental Health Division of Developmental Disabilities. Okay? Number two, my mom has been in healthcare for over 40 years. I was on first name basis with more doctors than I did my own fellow students in elementary school. Okay? Please stop. I'm so tired of the appeal to authority. It's the card everyone pulls out when they're trying to cow you into submission and make you think that you don't know what you're talking about and that you should just defer to the professionals. Well, I'm sorry to bust your bubble, JRC, but there's a lot of people who are so-called professionals that don't belong within 180 yards of anywhere that is practicing any form of medicine. I don't think either you or any of your direct care staff should be within 50 million miles of a snail. Okay? Also, regardless of how book smart a person is, or how many letters they may have behind their names. From personal experience, these so-called professionals are some of the dumbest, clueless, most condescending, arrogant pieces of steaming ableist garbage I have ever had the discomfort of being forced to deal with. Okay? These are people, I'm the doctor, I know better than you. The fuck you do? The fuck you do, Mel Karen? I'm the autistic in the situation. I have lived experience as well as having worked in the field. Those arguments are not going to cow somebody like me. It's not going to cow someone like my mom, who's been in healthcare for over 40 years. It's not going to cow my brother, working in ERs for 15 years. Okay? Spare me the appeals to authority. You only do it when you have nothing of any real substance to argue. And all it does is just show how arrogant and willfully stupid you are. Number 2, there are doctors and there are doctors. What I mean by this is, you could have a PhD in another part of the healthcare field. That does not qualify you as an expert when it comes specifically for dealing with those with developmental disabilities or people with mental health issues. You are what I would probably assume is a primary care physician who looks mainly in regards to our health. If we're sleeping okay, are we a healthy weight? Is there any underlying health issues that you need to be aware of? That's a primary care physician, okay? Who may have surface area knowledge in regards to mental health, or if you think that this person may need to be referred to a place like Burrow to do a diagnosis. It does not make you an expert in every single field of medicine. Okay? That's another reason why this call to authority, this appeal to authority, rather, does the JRC no favors here. He is a physician, a primary care physician. He does not specialize in working with kids with developmental disabilities. He is not a diagnostician. He is not a neurologist. He is not a psychiatrist. He is not a psychologist. Okay? But he listed in all the things that didn't work. He's a primary care physician, yes? As a person who's worked in the healthcare field, did it just escape his notice that the best way to get the best treatment and make sure it's the best program for your kid is after diagnosis, you immediately get that full functional behavioral assessment done so that the proper information is gathered to help the parents and the treatment team make the best decision possible in regards to an overall treatment program? Because I'm going to guess no, he didn't. And more than likely, didn't even know that the full functional behavioral assessment was something that needed to be done. The reason why is that is not his area of expertise. Okay? So him being a primary care physician makes this blatant appeal to authority here completely meaningless. But he listed all the severe behaviors and everything that was tried before. Okay, I can do that too. My mom can do it, brother can do it. Oldest brother whose expertise is computer coding. Every time he gets into his nerdy stage, I start backing towards the door slowly while trying to be polite and like make myself not visible. Anybody can sit down with a notepad and paper and write down the behaviors they observe in a particular person. And if they have the information, go over interventions. Anybody can do that. Him being a primary care physician does not give the fact that he did those things any more weight than when my mom did it, when my dad did it, when my aunt did it. My aunt, who, by the way, has never worked in healthcare and has a degree specifically in elementary school education and accounting. Okay? And she noticed things that the so-called people who could appeal to authority did not. And that was how I was finally correctly diagnosed. Okay? Your appeal to authority falls flat, JRC, and it's not worth the life of the poor tree that had to die for you to retype your same tired bullshit to try to sell people on something that is unsellable. Okay? I'm sorry, but appeals to authority nauseate me. It always pisses me off when places like the JRC try to pull it, because they know having a PhD in one area of healthcare does not mean you are an overall expert in all things healthcare, mental health, or developmental disabilities. You can't be. That's too much for anyone. That's why there's people who go in for specializations. My mom has a specialization. Well, she's got a couple of them now. She just finished her certificate for doing the mammograms and everything. You get my point. So I don't care that he's a primary care physician. That does not give him expert knowledge automatically in regards to this particular field of medicine. He may have a leg up on the general public, but the way they laid out here, he actually doesn't. He's doing something any parent could do. Or hell, even a sibling. Okay? It's something I could do. I could get a notepad right now. I have 2 of them. I always have notebooks on me. I've loved to write ever since I was a 10-year-old kid. I always have pencils and a couple of spiral notebooks all the time. I could sit down right now and make a list about all the not fun sides, not just being autistic, but my post-traumatic stress disorder, my anxiety disorder, and severe clinical depression when that rears its ugly head. In fact, I could even put more details in there in regards to my treatment programs, the successes, and the failures than this primary care physician can, because this area is my field, right? I've worked it alongside social workers and some of the best neurologists, psychiatrists, and psychologists in the world. In the world. I have been incredibly privileged in being an advocate with all the wonderful people I've met who work in this field. Okay? I would have a better appeal to authority in regards to this case. Yes, even though that's his daughter, than he does. Because I've been working within this particular area of medicine and treatment programs, community-based programs, in particular transition age, getting kids neurodivergent from high school into the workforce and into secondary education for 20 years. Okay? The appeal to authority doesn't work. It's just obnoxious. It makes you look like a whole bunch of condescending pricks. It even falls more on its face because the JRC is one of the worst pseudoscience loving and promoting ableist abusive fucks this side of RFK Jr. Okay? Just saying. It falls flat. Completely. Now the rest of this paragraph is going to go into all the things that he noted. We'll go again and read through that real quick before we get to the final video. Not the whole thing, just the following sentence. But even as I'm reading that, keep that in mind. This is just a physician. He has no specialties regards to this area of healthcare, mental health, or dealing specifically with people like me. Fucking none. None. Which means he has zero authority here. Alright, let's finish it up. He testified that his daughter went from constantly crying, tantruming, and hitting herself, and being unable to be toilet trained, to smiling, hugging, enjoying time with her family, and being able to use the bathroom and engage in other self-care skills. So once again, welcome to another episode. Is the JRC continues to ignore the existence of the concept of masking. And I will go back to my former point I made in the last video. So-called changes that are done under threat of duress are not real changes. If you can't remove the item that causes the duress and have the changes remain. So, my question to the JRC again is going to be the same one that I asked in the last video. If we remove the GED device from SAS, will those new so-called positive changes remain? Or will they start losing them as most of us do who've gone through horrific, traumatizing shit that once we're no longer under threat, get to fall in that horrific net known as the autistic burnout? Because every single one of these I've read, when you go digging after it later, fall into burnout. You get dragged back to this place. If the changes do not remain after the threat is removed, it's not a real change. The reason why it's not a real change is no real change that's going to be lifelong and follow you to the end of your days can be garnered from a punishment model. Because punishment does not treat the underlying triggers that are causing the behavior. Okay? And again, but she's showing us everything we want to see on the weekends and everything. Again, easiest thing in the world to do is to flip that mask on and have it up for 2 to 3 hours. Even a whole extended weekend or a full vacation when it calls for it. When I was in high school, it was end of sophomore year. And I was living with my aunt and uncle. And we did a week vacation out to Sanibel Island. My aunt and I were already bumping heads. Okay? It wasn't pretty. I was able to keep my mask up and showing all the behaviors that my aunt wanted to see for the entirety of that week, all the way home until by the time we got back and I went up into my room. Don't tell me it's impossible. I've done it. Was it real change that benefited me down the long run? The only thing that it actually benefited me to do was to finally find freedom to stop caring so much about what everybody else thought of me. To stop caring about whether people thought I was weird or something was wrong with me. Because of that experience, I finally just stopped caring. So I guess overall it did help. But those so-called societal norms, those unspoken rules that the neurotypicals think we're supposed to magically know, get mad when we don't know them. When we try to ask for more clarification, they yell at us and say, well, you should know. Yeah, that. Right? If the change occurs under duress, if you remove the duress, and its change remains and continues on 1 year, 2, 3, 4, 10, 15, 20, then we can revisit this conversation. But from what I've seen and looked at from Autisticoid's massive archive and talking to other survivors, I have found out that every single time, yeah, the so-called good changes go the way of the dodo because they were forced. Okay? And those skills only come back slowly over time when they're finally able to get out of that hellhole and get involved with a treatment program with people with their head on fucking straight. Okay? We are going to go ahead and close out on that one, folks. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few we do tend to get removed from time to time. So please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and please don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time. And as always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. I'll see you all in a minute. Bye-bye, everyone.